Hi everyone, and welcome to Homo Ludens, the channel on history and board games. And tonight we have a special guest with us, Amabel Holland. So very happy
Hello.
to have you with us. I think it the games that you make are games that we often end up talking about, either in our discussions. We've covered some of them in our podcast and everything. And I think it's super exciting to have you here because I think it's a you're probably one of the, at least for me, and I think it's probably the same for Joe, but for a lot of people in the community, one of the designer that is the most inspiring for us right now. So that's pretty cool.
Well,
So
thank you.
super happy to have you with us tonight. Thanks for everyone who's joining us for this live stream where we will be playing under the supervision of Amabel, the Field of the Cloth of Gold, which is the game that was the latest implementation on Rally the Troops. If you don't know, Rally the Troops is a website where you can play historical board games. So not only war games, even if there is a lot of war games on there, but historical board games online using an HTML interface. It's rules enforced, so it's actually a great way to get really in-depth playing the game. Really great for asynchronous play. It's all free. It's a passion project from Thor, and we had Thor on the show a couple of weeks ago. If you want to hear more about him, we've decided that he was the gamer of the year on the show, like
Uh,
because he had such a big impact on the community. He was nominated by Steven Ramganzas, and no one is contesting that status. But so that's really great. So now that I've explained a bit the context and everything, maybe we can talk about the game. I have the box here. If I can, yeah. So that's the game that we're going to be playing. Really cool box cover, actually, and
Thank
it's
you.
quite a unique quite a unique game in the sense that um, normally in on this channel we play mostly war games, but not only, we also play political games and stuff like this, but they're all tied to history. But I think this one goes even a step further in the way it represents history and the kind of feel that it provides. And I was super happy to cover this one, and I was also surprised that it was added on Reddit Troops. So that was actually a good surprise. But can you tell us a bit, Amabel, what was the idea behind the Field of the Cloth of Gold?
Well, I've always been, ever since I was a little kid, and I was really into um, castles and kings and knights and all of that. I was really into the Field of the Cloth of Gold as like a historical event and as a topic. I was kind of fixated on it for a bit. And I always thought when I got into games, oh, I could do a game on the Field of the Cloth of Gold one of these days. And I tried back when I thought I was be a Euro game designer. I tried. And then when I moved into war games, historical games, I tried. And I couldn't quite get it. And then in 2020, February of 2020, I realized, oh, hey, in June, it will be the 500th anniversary of the Field of the Cloth of Gold. If ever there's a time to do a game on this, it it's now. And I came up with the concept for the game in an evening, and the testing cycle, the art, that all of that was done within the space of about 6 weeks in order to prepare it for publication in June of 2020. Um, and that's basically where the game came from, and it's proven to be very popular. It's certainly a more certainly feels a lot like the kind of German style board game, Euro game that I liked from like the late 90s, early aughties. And that was kind of the thing I was trying to replicate was that feeling, because really with the actual event, not not a lot really happened that you could make like a historically detailed game about. So it was really kind of an outlier for me because generally, I tend to do games that engage with history in a more serious way, and this is something that was deliberately kind of frivolous, but also I think that kind of fits for the topic, right? Which was this basically this big 3 week party.
And that's maybe the thing that I would like maybe to talk a bit about. Can you provide some historical context on the topic? Because I think once you know the historical context, the game really makes sense, and it's actually it sounds like a really good depiction of what happened
Well, thank
during
you.
those 3 weeks.
Yeah, so the King of England and the King of France got together in Bellingham in France. Pardon my pronunciation, which is probably pretty terrible. And they had this big party for 3 weeks where we showed off how wealthy they were and how much stuff they had. Displays about how pious they were, and each other these lavish gifts, and it basically was this huge expenditure of money with these opulent feasts, and just a big kind of show off party, showing off how grand they were, and trying to outdo each other with these lavish presents and exclamations of friendship, and it was basically like a little like show off fest, and that was basically the whole thing. Like it may have like strengthened the bond between the two kings and their friendship, but politically it didn't really have much actual consequence.
But then the fact that it's an event that is so well known but had no consequences whatsoever, what in this event captured your imagination and made you want to make a game about it?
I mean, so when I first encountered it when I was like a kid, you know, it's kind of the splendor and the opulence of it, you know. And they had, I mean, it's called the Field of the Cloth of Gold because so much cloth of gold was present at the thing. And you know, they someone said they saw a dragon, and obviously they didn't see a dragon, but when you're a little kid, there's a dragon, you get excited about it, right? So and there were tourneys and jousting matches and whatnot, and that's all stuff that's very fascinating to someone who's like really fixated on a kind of idealized version of that period, right? And certainly by the time I made the game, I was a bit cannier about that and a bit more critical of what a terrible time and place that was for so many people. You know, like because when you're a little kid and you read about like the Middle Ages and lords and ladies and knights and so forth, you imagine yourself there in that kind of position. But when you really think about it, most people, obviously, as is the case today, most people are not part of that privileged class. And so that's also kind of why I wanted kind of a satirical bent to the game a little bit, because this was a huge expenditure of cash for no real purpose. And you know, there were certainly people in both kingdoms, the people who, you know, aren't rich, who were suffering. So I'm trying to make some kind of little jab at that to, you know, just it's kind of like where kind of the impish quality of the game comes from.
Yeah, that's really interesting because even in a game that is a bit abstract on a topic that is not very important historically, there is still like an interesting comment that is being made, which is I think maybe one of your trademarks, I guess, to always have a pretty clear and unique point of view on the topics that you depict. But I guess we'll talk a bit more about the design in after our game because after all, this evening is supposed to be a teach and play. So we'll bring I will bring the game on stream. So for those who just joined us before after we started, we are playing Unready the Troops. The game is available for free on Unready the Troops, and we highly recommend that you use this amazing platform. And we will be playing the Field of the Cloth of Gold. And I think I will need to remember something that you said around that, the fact that you thought that you were going to be a Euro game designer, because I think that makes a lot of sense for that game specifically, but we'll come back to that. Before, okay. So let's go and play. Maybe can you explain, just give us a general overview of how the game works and what do we see in front of us, and then I guess that Joe and I will start taking actions and we can go a bit more detailed into all of the specific actions and how they work.
Yeah, sure. So the way the game works is you each have 2 tokens which you're placing on those spaces to take those actions. When you take an action, first you're going to give the tile for that space to your opponent. It's a gift that one king is giving to another. And that's going to be the things that are in your court that you're then going to score points for. So that's pretty much like the high level overview of the game is that you're trying to you're giving your opponent their scoring opportunities, and sometimes you don't want to score, and we'll see if that happens and why that happens as we get into it. But I think that's pretty. I mean, there are 5 kind of tiles. There used to be 4, which are the 4 that you see here: the gold representing cloth of gold, the blue representing banquets and feasts, the white representing piety, and the red representing tournaments. This edition of the game, the 503rd anniversary edition that came out earlier this year, has a 5th tile type, the jewel, but hasn't showed up yet. So I think that's enough for a high level overview, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's good enough. So I will be playing red. Joe will be playing blue. And we start with 2 pawns each outside of the board, and we're going to place them, and then we'll have to change them from one spot to another. So I think that for this first move, I'm just going to go and take my first pawn and place it on white. So as Amabel was saying, that tile that was here actually went to Joe's court. So Joe has also a hand that we cannot see, but you can see it for me. So you see my court in red, and then you see my hand. And of course, Joe is not looking at my hand because that's not the kind of person he is.
I'm trying very hard. But
yeah,
I think Henry VIII would have looked at your hand. Absolutely.
Yeah, probably. So it probably makes sense that you're looking at my hand. And so for this activity, I will score each 1 point for each white tile. I had 2 white tiles in my hand. They were coming into the court. And now I'm going to score 2 points and go up. But this action makes me discard the tile, contrary to the purple action and the yellow action. So those have to go. And this is the end of my turn. Pretty simple stuff. And now it's Joe's turn to place his first cylinder.
I'm going to take a slightly more risky slot, which is this red one over here. It gives you that white tile. And then we both score our red tiles. So I reveal that I've got one in my hand. You get 2 points.
Yep.
And then you do as well. Oh, no, then I remove them as well.
Yeah, you remove them. And if I had 1, you would also score it for me and discard my tile. So this one is something that scores for both. But I didn't have any reds, so that's fine for Joe.
And it's also going to have you. Oh, go.
No, go ahead.
Well,
sorry.
It's also going to have you each draw a tile, and I'll draw people's attention to the scoring track there. So there's a draw tile symbol. That's the black square, and what row you are on the track determines how many tiles you will pull from the bag, which is called the darkness in the game's language. So right now, each will be drawing 1 tile into their hand. But as people see it on the score track, you'll be drawing 2 or even 3 tiles later on.
Yeah, which gives a really interesting pacing to things as well. I think that and the goal scoring is a really interesting twist. So I get that one, and then Fred has taken one. Yeah.
Nice. Good. So that's going to be my turn, and I will leave the stupid joke that Joe just made in the chat when I'm taking my turn.
There's already a second edition, Joe. What are you talking
about?
No,
but yeah, he's just making a stupid suggestion for the name. Terrible, awful.
If you made the joke 6 months ago.
I've already done that joke though. I have an expansion. The grass crown is 2 grass, 2 crown.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point.
Actually, with Roman numerals, I was very pleased with myself. No one else was, but
it was you. Yeah.
But
there is
one
question that is actually maybe a serious question about. So you already mentioned it, but for the people who joined late, what are going to be the changes in the new edition?
So the changes in the edition that came out this year is a jewel tile has been added. There are 6 of those. There used to be 18 gold and 12 of the other. Now there are 12 of each of those 4 basic tile types. And that's literally it. The new jewel tile and its scoring. And then there are less gold tiles to go along. Other than that, I put a curse in the rule book. So if you get the rules wrong, you get cursed. and my name is correct on the box now, which was part of the impetus for the edition change.
Sorry, understand that. Now I have a question. So I'm considering my move. What is the dragon, and how does it work? And why is there a dragon here?
Okay, well, the dragon is here because I just thought it was really delightful to the story of the dragon, but apparently appearing at the field of cloth of gold, and the painting that we used as the canvas master has the dragon there. But the dragon in the game terms is when you move to that space, you're going to move that white dragon marker to another space, and it's going to block that space until you vacate the dragon space. So it basically restricts movement. The reason why you might want to use a dragon instead of using your own piece for that space is that you won't do the action. You'll still give the tile to your opponent, but you won't do the action. So especially for those actions where you will get rid of tiles, let's say you don't want to get rid of those tiles, that you want to keep them for that purple action, which is going to give you 2 points for each set of those 4 base tiles that you have, you might want to block that off. Or, for example, the blue action scores 1, 3, or 6 points for 1, 2, or 3 plus tiles. If I just have 1 blue tile, I don't necessarily want to move to that space and use it. I want to wait till I get another blue tile. But if I can use the dragon to block that space, I'm taking my move. I have a need to move. This is zugzwang, right? And I think as we get into it, when you basically choose between 2 options on any turn, that zugzwang becomes quite. I had someone describe the game as every move I do is everything is terrible. I hate all this. I hate all these moves. And the dragon helps soften that a little bit.
I'm actually really glad you just said Zugzwang, because that was a feeling I had playing the game, and my understanding is that it's kind of a trademark of quite a few of your games. So there's a kind of a Zugzwang type feeling to them. Very small decision space with forced decisions a lot of the time, almost, which comes across really sharply in this game.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I like making people feel bad. That's why I want to go for as a designer.
Exactly. Well, Fred does too, so you're in good company. So I'm going to go. I was thinking about Dragon, but I'm going to go for this one. I don't like giving Fred anything, but particularly not gold.
Yeah, so in this game you have no choice, and I think this
I know.
Yeah,
Sorry, no, I love to give gifts.
Yes, exactly.
To my
That's
noble,
the spirit.
friend, the King of France. But this does give me a secret gift from Darkness too. So
yeah,
that's nice.
And when I take my turn, I would just bring that question from Stuart that has nothing to do with what we're doing now, but I thought while I take my turn, you can probably reply. And for the people who don't know the game, so now we've placed our 4 cylinders. So now each of us, one after the other, will have to take 1 cylinder that is already on a spot and place it on another spot. So here my decision space, and for the rest of the game, is going to be limited to 3 options. Or potentially 2 when there will be the dragon in play. So yeah, so just for people to understand what's happening, and I will let you answer the question, Amabel.
Okay, so the shields and swords. So there are basically 2 series. There's the ancients one, which is where the grass crown and 2 grass 2 crown come from, and then there's the medieval one, which is where Great Heathen Army and the other titles come from, and so. We haven't had a new medieval one in a while. I've done like 25 battles with that system, and it was like my very first war game, or second war game was with that system, which was like 12 years ago. There's certainly things about the system that I like and things I'd do differently if I was doing it today. So I don't know what I'm going to do with it going forward. There's certainly areas where I'm less satisfied with it. Also, the Holland Spiel releases of Shields and Swords, the art there, the map art, was by Anya Ziakolska, who had stopped kind of doing map art a few years ago, actually. And I haven't done another game since in that particular form of the series. I would need a new look. I just haven't figured that out yet. And frankly, they don't get as much traction as the ancient stuff does, and I'm not as motivated to do hex and counter stuff these days as I used to be. I'm much more interested like in the kind of political historical games these days. I'll come back to it probably, but I don't know when. I don't have any plans in the immediate term. Hope that answers your question there.
Mhm.
Great. Thanks, Amabel.
I paused for ages because I forgot to refill the space. What's
Yeah,
happening now is-
I wanted
yeah.
to tell it, but I didn't want to interrupt him. But I was like,
Yeah.
Joe, can you fucking draw the time? Like I was like,
Yeah. Fred,
But,
language. It's a child-friendly stream.
it's not.
Yeah, but that's because it's evening here in the UK, so it's okay.
So yeah,
So what did you
we're
do?
allowed
You
to
went
say bad
to.
words.
Oh yeah, and there are these thematic names for each scoring bit. Is that in the game, or is that just something on Rally the Troops so we can? refer
That's
to
in the
them?
game. That's
Okay,
in the
cool.
game.
I
Yeah.
wasn't sure. Yeah, I haven't seen the physical copy.
Yeah, and the game rule book is written in a I think a very thematic way, or I tried for that anyway.
Yep.
So I'll mention where the curse came from. That's now in the rules is that people would misread the rules and refill all the spaces all the time. And that's just too much information for people. Having just the two options on screen at a time, on the map at a time, I think really tightens it and really focuses it. It doesn't give you too much information. Whereas if you knew what the other tiles were, it's too much. It's too much brain burn, I think, for people.
Yeah, definitely. And it also would get away from this nice idea that you've just got these two choices almost, and you'd be thinking like 3 or 4 or 5 moves into the future, which isn't needed. Yeah.
That's why I put a curse in there to make sure people get it right from, going forward.
I think more game designers should do that actually. And as a developer, I'm gonna insist on it. We should do it in jest, Fred. We should do a little a curse in the rulebook. He's thinking too hard about how to beat me.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't really listen. I was somewhere else. Yeah, I was in my own little space.
Well, it was a suggestion that you would have liked, but I'm not gonna let us do it.
No, come on. Now I want to know. So how does the curse work? Because I'm looking.
Yeah, so it's gonna be on those 2 pages. It's on the second page, and I think it's in the left column of that second page. It's been a while since I looked at it, though. I have like 70 games published. I have to refresh myself on rules all the time.
That's fair.
Because there is the actions, and we have the 7 actions, and then there is the end of contest.
I think it's before. I think it's just before the 7 actions. I think it's like.
So it's before the 7 actions.
Yeah, I think it's that section beforehand. Like it just.
Yeah, before that we have the flow of play.
It's in the flow of play. I think towards the end.
Moving to
I think interesting. Sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was going to talk about the game rather than the curse, so we should finish the curse discussion first, I think.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I see it now. So maybe I should read it for the interest of the people listening. So you say finally, if an empty oval space on the board has no tile, a tile is drawn from the darkness. Oh, and the darkness, we didn't explain that mechanic, and that's actually quite critical. You see the number at the bottom right. There is 32 tiles in the darkness, and that's actually the draw pile of tiles. And as soon as this is empty, it's the end of the game. A tile is drawn from the darkness and placed face up within an empty tile space. Mark, a new tile is drawn only when an oval space is empty of both token and tile. To do otherwise is a foul corruption of this splendid and winsome entertainment. A pox upon those who dare. But there is no mechanical aspect to it.
Okay. You're missing the whole point of this.
No? What am I missing?
There is a mechanical point, which is that you'll be cursed, which is bad, and then you'll lose the game because you've been cursed. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you do lose. Okay.
Well, I mean, only in the sense that you've been cursed, so you'll probably lose the game.
Maybe that's fine.
We confuse Fred a lot, I think. So what I was going to say is I just realized now, because I'm a bit slow, that there's actually a clever use of tournaments of the red scoring to draw out your opponent's red tiles if you think they're angling for sets somehow, if that's what you figured they're doing.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I often see used as an offensive move and to disrupt.
Yeah. See, now I have to give Fred more gold, possibly. Which
Yes.
I don't want to do that. I won't do that.
Give you more gold.
Because I don't have enough gold. There we go.
Well, I am going to play on red, and I know that it's going to be 0 points for each of us, but that doesn't really matter because I'm going to draw two tiles, and you're only going to have one. So that's the thing that that we haven't explained. But if you look at the numbers on the left of the scoring track, it indicates what's going to be the value at the end of the game for each gold tile that you have, but also the number of tiles that you're going to draw. So if you are on 0 to 7, you only draw one tile when there is a draw action. But as soon as you get to 8 victory points, you get to draw 2. So I would draw 2, and Joe will only draw 1.
Yeah. There is this interesting thing as well that if you get too far ahead in the score, your gold will be worth less. So I haven't really thought about it enough, but there's maybe a kind of a narrow window where you can be hoarding enough gold and be far enough back in the score that you can actually jump forward at the end.
And importantly, you score the jewels before the gold, so you have to take into account the jewel score, not really where you are, is where the jewel are going to put you. More importantly,
I hadn't actually realized that the jewels were a new addition for the new edition. Which is
they're awesome. I love the jewels.
Yeah, I think they're really complete, the design, because again, the original one was designed in 6 weeks. And I was real proud of it, but I've had 3 years to think about it.
Yeah. So what was the thinking with adding the jewels in? What was the problem?
Well, so a lot of people. Well, so I needed to relay out the counter sheet because we changed the template because of a production issue with the games that have this size of counter. And while I was doing that, I was looking at the gold tiles, which there used to be 18, and because it's field of cloth of gold, and people would complain that because I got feedback from people at the game's been out for a few years, would complain that the gold really determined the victory, and because there's so much gold, and so I thought, well, why don't I try it with gold being equal to the others? And I have 6 new tiles. Let's add a new tile type. Further entice people to want to buy the game, a second time if they wanted. So I appreciate people who did, and I tried it with this jewel, and I think it shifts the game a bit, where it makes that purple space so much more important because the purple space reveals all your tiles. So if you're gaining jewels from the darkness, you can't get them out anyway except that purple space, right? And it also makes, I think it really increases the importance of that space, and to a lesser degree, the red space and the just draw tile from the darkness space, because people seem to be drawing tiles more. I've been looking at some of the Rally the Troops games. Now that there are the jewels you're trying to fish for, you don't want to give them to your opponent, and now you have to give him one.
Yes, that's what I was super happy. I was like, yes.
But watch this. So I have to give you one, but I've been waiting because I had 2 jewels in hand, which I needed to reveal. So it's all good. And I actually just gained enough for a set too, so I have a set.
That's great.
So that was actually good.
That's actually a pretty good combo.
Yeah. So I should mention that the way the jewels score at the end of the game, because they have no function during play, is you're going to score points for each jewel equal to the number of jewels you have. So if you have 1 jewel, you get 1 point. You have 2 jewels, they're each worth 2. That's 4 points. Yeah. So it scales up pretty quickly.
Yeah. So in this situation, for instance, I really don't want to give Fred that extra jewel, and he really doesn't want to give it to me. So
that jewel would be 3 points.
We're in a tough spot now. Yeah. And we're in an interesting position as well, where Fred can see I have quite a lot of blue tiles, and this happened in our early games. We ended up, I think, stalling a little bit because one of us. So in this case, Fred might want to just completely block blue scoring now. Mm-hmm. But I think as we played a bit more, Fred, it turned out that it's not really that obvious, and actually. You might not necessarily want to do that.
I would say, as soon as you have more than 3, I'm happy with opening it up. But I will try to give you as many blue as I can before I do that. So that's the thing, because I know that each additional blue is going to be useless to you, and probably my next move is going to be giving you a blue if I can, or before I.
And then there is also, there's a risk as well that me having lots of blue means I actually get more sets, and then I'm going to score anyway. So
And I think this is something that I really love about this game. And I think it was Stuart from the server who said that. He said, the game is not mean, the game is petty. Like, it's really a game about...
yeah, exactly, yeah.
And I thought it was really, it's really a game about being petty. It's like, oh, let me be nice to you. Look, I'm going to give you that tile and giving you those shitty options. And it's, and I think this is really fun. And I get a set, and yes, you either give me some gold or give me a jewel. I'm very happy about that.
But you're rapidly devaluing your currency with all this gold, so it's okay. I don't mind. Maybe I don't mind.
And now I'm thinking about. I have 1 point from the jewel. I have quite a lot of gold, and I might want to make sure that I stay in the 2 range. So if I go to 24, all of my gold would be worth half than what it is now. So I just want to be a bit careful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah, and I need to. What do I need to do? Reveal my gold.
And there are 11 tiles left in the darkness.
Yeah.
Now we got
You have 1 tile in your hand. I wanted to give you more blue.
Yeah. Actually, this is an interesting question. In the physical game, do you allow people to count what's left in the darkness, or?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
You know, I don't mention it in the rules, but I don't see why not, because the number of tiles is a known quantity.
Yeah.
So actually, here, if you gave me a jewel, you would divide by half of the value of my gold, and that's the thing that is.
Whoa. Okay, because the jewels are tested first, so I would give you 3 points essentially.
Yeah, you would give me 3 points, but you will lose me. Yeah, you will lose me 6.
So I should do that.
Yeah,
I should definitely do that. Yeah, and you have the most gold, so I should take this one probably. And I've got loads of red actually, so that's good. Yeah. It does mean I can't get those sets, which I might have been able to. I maybe should have scored my sets. Oh, it would just be 1, wouldn't it? So I only got the 1 white.
Yeah.
And I get rid of your red too, which is nice. And we both get from darkness.
And also speeding up the game quite a bit there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the team does forward quite a lot and move back.
No, actually, I'm going to place my tiles, even though I was wanting to go for something. But now that you devalued my gold, I'm probably better off placing my jewels.
Yeah. Well, I'm probably also in quite a good position to end the game, actually, because I'm still in that free scoring bit. So I'm better there than creeping forward slightly, which is also interesting.
So now if you draw, you will draw 2 and then draw 1 to replace. So that would be the end game if one of us go into the drawing spot.
So if I do this, for instance.
Yeah.
And I think that's good for me. So, okay, so you get 9 for jewels. So let's think about this, because you've got the 3 there. So that's quite a lot. Yeah.
And you're going to get 4, so actually your gold is going to be worth 2 a piece and not 3.
Yeah.
So I'm still going to win.
Yeah. Plus we should have done something else. Yeah. So I actually had another jewel in hand, so I possibly should have done sets, which would have scored me. Oh no, I drew out from a bag right at the end.
Yeah.
So
that's why you got it. Yeah. Good. And that's it. And that's the field of the cloth of gold. Yeah. But I think that's a good overview. So I hope that the people who are watching figured out what the different actions do and how the game flows and all that. And now that we've played, I guess it would be probably a good point for us to discuss about the design itself and all this. So you mentioned in the rule book, you mentioned in the introduction, the fact that there is kind of a lineage with Eurogames from the 90s. And it's true that when I played, it reminded me of some of Kinesia's game, like Lost Cities in a way, which can also be very petty sometimes. When you discard a card to someone that has, for example, a good, you know that they have a lot of that color, and they had to start placing actual value cards, and you give them the contract that would have boosted their score, and you actually do it out of meanness, like to tell them, well, you cannot use that card anymore, and that would have scored you so much, and doing those kind of stuff. Or even I was thinking about Tigress and Euphrates, which is actually very mean and petty. And I was thinking, are those games the kind of games that you're thinking of, or what are the games that actually inspired you to make this one?
Oh, absolutely. Kinesia is a huge influence on this. And Tigress and Euphrates was one of the first, Euro games that I purchased when I first got into the hobby. And at the time, I mean, I got into the hobby like 12, 13 years ago. So at the time, it was still quite an old game, and people weren't quite making those games anymore. But I really like those kind of simple, tight, mean heroes. It's not like it's not mean in the way that a combat game can be mean, where you're beating someone up, but just like this kind of politely vicious kind of vibe. And before the space kind of migrated to like the multiplayer solitaire sort of style without much interference. I like very interactive games, so it's definitely a very interactive hero game. Like Tigress was a huge influence. And in fact, when I did my first prototype, I just grabbed tiles for my copy of Tigress because I was doing it like late at night. Like, I got this idea, I gotta go. I am not gonna wait to mock up a counter sheet and print it up and then wait for Mary to get up and cut them out, because I can't be trusted with scissors. I can't cut things. So I said, I'm just gonna get these tiles from this set, and that was a huge influence to it for it, and that kind of Kinesia style design. And in fact, when the game first came out, there was a reviewer who compared it to some of Kinesia's work, and I was really very touched by that, and even put it on the back of the box with this edition.
And this leads me to a question that I wanted to ask you around how do you approach game design? You're clearly heavily inspired by those games. From what I understand, those are some of the first games that you've discovered maybe in the hobby, and that's maybe something to talk about. But in the end, the types of game that you're making are highly thematic compared to, I would say, Kinesia's games are not very highly thematic. I wouldn't. I think he wouldn't be upset if he heard that. He would be, oh, come on. So that's okay. But what compelled you to make the kinds of games that you're making today that are so different from the first games that you loved?
Well, so I tried making the kind of Euro games, and I was just kind of out of step with where the market was at that time. And then I also at the time was futzing around with some hex and counter stuff. Like, my library had a copy of the Jim Dunnigan War Games Handbook, which had a free war game in it, and I found SPI's Waterloo for free online. I could print up and play. I thought, well, maybe I'll do a war game. It's like a, as a lark, and that's the first one that sold. And then that publisher asked me to do another one, so I did another one. And around the same time, I did a train game as a lark. I really thought I'm gonna be like a midweight Euro game designer, and I'm gonna do these little things but those are the things that sold. And eventually, that's what I became, and those were the kind of games that I started playing a lot, because my interest in games is highly vocational. It's very much learning from the games and gaming as a career and what games can express. And certainly I'm really kind of glad actually that I fell into the niche that I did, because I think the work I'm doing is more interesting than it would be if I was doing standard issue midway Euro games. I don't want to toot my own horn, but several of my games are games that other people wouldn't have done, and I would not have done that if I was making Euro games. Trying to use games to express something, to express a point of view, to model something on a systemic level, particularly with regards to like a political argument. That stuff is very fascinating to me, and I never would have found that if I hadn't fallen into war games. And, if I hadn't, a big part of it too was one of the first games once Holland Spiel started, one of the first games we published was Cole Worley's and Infamous Traffic. And certainly that inspired me to think about games more deeply. And within a couple of years, I had my game, This Guilty Land, out. And I've kind of done a depressing political game every year since. I skipped last year, but back to it this year. I have a game coming out on disinformation in the tobacco industry. So
And I think that this, and I was wondering about the influence of Cold War, because when we look at it today, we do feel like there is quite a lot of points in common between your work and his work in the way you both use game to express a point of view on history and all this. And I was wondering what made you shift, and was it playing one of his game, or actually was it really working with him on an Infamous Traffic that made you want to go even further in your approach of expressing even more about history in your own designs?
It was a little bit of both, and then also just the success of Traffic. I saw something that worked, and I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. Also, to a degree, so when we started Holland Spiel, it was with the intention that we're going to publish basically more or less normal war games. That's going to be our bread and butter. That's what's going to make us our money, and let's have a little side income, and then it will allow me to do more weird niche things that no one really cares about. Because I had like 15 games come out before Holland Spiel started, and most of those, especially the war games, they were fine. They were received fine. None of them really set the world on fire. So I figured it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be, a vanity press for my work. But mostly it's going to be other people's stuff. And then, the thing is, I did some stranger things, like the supply lines of American Revolution, for example, or table battles. And those really took off with people. It was really resonated with people in ways I wasn't expecting. And that encouraged me to just go further and try to do stranger things. And that kind of dovetailed with working with Cole on Infamous Traffic, and then working with Aaron Escobedo on Meltwater. Meltwater especially has a very strongly expressed premise and idea, and was hugely influential for me.
And I really love Meltwater. We should play it on the stream sometime, Fred.
I think it's a good idea. Yeah, it was a great game, and that's and I was thinking about Meltwater and some of the games that were released by Holland Spiel, and the reason I'm asking the question is that I've played some of your games. I think the one that I played was I don't remember who was the publisher, but it was a Ziploc game on the 1870 Franco-Prussian War, Hex Encounter, and I was like, and don't take it this, but I thought it was a pretty boring game. And and then I played your other stuff, and I was like, something happened in between that and that, like because the approach to even the design was more radical. You were trying things, and it was saying more interesting things. And I was like, what happened from this to that? Because it feels like it's actually even a different relationship to the design process.
For sure.
And it felt like in those later games that were released by Holland Spiel, there's also something that I'm sensitive to when I'm reading at the rules and when I'm looking at it felt like you as a designer had fun making those games a lot more than ones that I could have played from, like this one. I have it in top of mind, but it's like, and I really felt like there was quite significantly a shift, and I think Table Battles is a really good example of this. Like, Table Battles is just extremely fun. Like, it's doing something very unique and very different, and you developed a lot of expansion out of it because I guess it was fun to do. And I think that even with this very small design space, you do say something interesting about each battle in a very efficient way. And it's not something that I necessarily could see in the design that you did maybe before Holland Spiel. So I was curious about that.
Yeah, I definitely would agree there, especially as like the early Holland Spiel stuff that I did. I think it's less evident, but as time gone on, I got more confident. Like, people were interested in my stuff. You can't create it in a vacuum. And I was doing a lot of Ziploc games, and I was not getting a tremendous amount of feedback on them. And I didn't know if people were playing them or enjoying them. And like that 1871, like, there are parts of it that I think are reasonably clever, but there's no fire to it. There's nothing that where I needed to make this game. And I'm at the point now where I'm basically I'm only making a game if I need to play it, if I have something I have to say, and it's like really got me excited and hyped for it. Because if I'm just going through the motions, why bother? And God, I haven't thought about that game in years. It was not very well researched. I'm sorry to say.
So
I did not. I did not have a lot of materials available.
One thing I must say is that I realized, because I had a second printing of it, which seemed okay and everything, and then someone told me, "Have you looked at the cover for the first printing?"
That's not my fault. That's not my cover's not my fault. I didn't.
On the cover there was a burning Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower was built built at that time, not at all. Like, it didn't exist. I was like, what the fuck is that?
I was so embarrassed. Because then I became the person with the game with the Eiffel Tower on the cover, and like no one. Oh, yeah, no, I was real. Oh, and that's one reason. There were a few experiences I had before Holland Spiel where like it made me convinced that whether I get something right or I make a mistake, I want it to be my mistake.
Yeah.
I want to be the one to lay claim to that and say, yeah, that's on me. That's not, I don't want to be beholden to someone else's mistakes. Someone's not going to put the Eiffel Tower on the cover unless it's me doing it. And like they paid for a painting. They paid someone to paint that. That's really sad to me,
It's good that we don't remember the name of the publisher. It's probably for the best. And now it goes to I think it's a natural transition to the question I wanted to ask you about Amabel, the publisher, and not the game designer. So you mentioned already some reason why you wanted to create Holland Spiel, but overall, where did I thought came from, and what did you set to achieve when you started that company?
So when I first got into game design, I was very aware that if I wanted to make some kind of living at it, it would be as a publisher and not as a designer. And so the intention was always to like do some games and get some notoriety so I could then become a publisher and have some people follow my work there. It didn't quite work that way because my games didn't get as much notoriety. But along the way, Mary and I like worked for a couple different publishers and learned about print on demand capabilities and like learned the craft of publishing, like laying out a counter sheet and so on, proofing stuff. And so we said, well, we're going to do it. We're just going to do it. And we started publishing games, and we started as kind of meant to be a sideline. At the time, I was doing quite well in my day job. I was a manager at my day job, and I was looking to move up within the company. So they were very pleased with my work at that time. That took a nosedive the following year when the industry collapsed. But so when we started the company, it was just like, this is going to be a sideline, gives a little extra money and whatnot. And then by the time I was looking to get out of the job, of my day job, and look at Holland Spiel as making it a full-time thing, it was like, well, we're going to make this how we make a living. And then eventually became, we're going to make a living and then do whatever weird stuff we want. It's just how I try to treat it. I try to, just kind of follow the muse, as it were, and do things that, because we've done some normal games. We've done some like normal war games or some games that you would see at a publisher like GMT do, for example. And they don't do as well for us because people already have GMT to get those games from. So we had to find our niche, and it took us a couple years to find our footing there, to find what it is we do. And so we're trying to do that.
Yeah, and I would say that from the outside, it feels like you found that space in a lot of ways, as players, at least. Like when you get the Holland Spiel today game, you know that you're getting something that that is significantly different. Like the production might not be what you expect from other games. So that's,
Yeah, okay.
but that doesn't really matter, because that's not what you're purchasing. A different kind of experience. You're going for something a bit more radical regarding game design, a bit more radical in the way it uses game design to actually express ideas and everything. And it's and what I usually say about Holland Spiel game is that whether I like them or not, I always get something out of playing them. And that's the thing that I love about this, is that it doesn't really matter that I like the game in the end. Is that there is always something interesting that happened, and it always makes me think. And I'm thinking, well, this is invaluable. It has way more value for me than a game that is super polished, that I'm going to play a few times, but it would have, just went by, and I wouldn't think about it after having played it. It was just a nice moment where I didn't, and I think it's a different kind of experience, and I kind of love that. But I'm not going to be too nice all the time now. I need to.
Well, thank you very much anyway.
But yeah, I think it's really great. We were talking a bit before the stream began about the fact that you were pretty happy with that implementation of the Field of the Cloth of Gold on Rally the Troops, and I was curious about what games if you were to have other games on platforms such like this, what games would you like to see being played? Because I guess that you were maybe surprised by the reaction on this one. Did you feel like the level of play? How did you? Because I've seen you play on the platform. We've actually had a back and forth. You won one, I won one. So I guess we need to have a final one to know who's the best out of the two of us. But yeah, what did you think about it? Do you think that people interacted with the game a bit differently than the published game? And what games would you like to see coming up next?
I'm really happy with the implementation of it, and I'm really happy being able to just play the game with. No comment. I'm able to play the game with people. It's fun to play my games with people. I don't do it very often. I generally tend to move on from the game once it's out there. So having this kind of online implementation, it's real good. Something that I would like to see Nicaea, perhaps. I feel like that's a game that could work in this context, and it's kind of hard sometimes to play Nicaea in person because it's a 4 to 6 player game.
Yeah,
and that's a kind of an awkward player count. I guess Westphalia is another one. Why not?
Yeah.
Where the games where an online implementation helps it get played more often.
And did you consider like a game like Table Battles? Because I feel like it could be quite interesting also in a platform like this, because then you could. I'm thinking about games that are also like players could play one after another, because I've seen that for the Field of the Cloth of Gold. Like there is I'm playing with Tails, which is he's a shark on Rally the Troops.
I noticed.
Yes, and I think on the Field of the Cloth of Gold we've played 12 games back to back, just the two of us. Once a game was done, we wanted to play another one and everything. And I'm thinking about that kind of relationship that you can build. And I was thinking, well, like a game like Table Battles could be really fun, because you could do one battle, then do the other side, then go for another battle, and keep moving also along and explore those things. It's something that you think could be also a good fit?
Sure, I think that'd be a probably fairly easy to implement as well. And there are 49 scenarios now. So, I mean, there's a lot there that people could play. There's a lot you could do with that.
Yeah, and I'm just putting it out there, but I would like to see it. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that could be really fun. And it's not always easy for us in Europe also to get the expansion for Table Battles. For example, I have the core one and I have the Gettysburg one, because for some weird reason, even if I have no interest in the American Civil War, I have an obsession for Gettysburg, which is really weird. I don't, and yeah, Stuart often makes fun of me for that. Like there is no reason. Like when he talks to me about the American Civil War, I'm always confused. I don't even know who was the president of the United States at the time. But when we talk about Gettysburg, like I'm very sharp. Like it's like so yeah. But yeah, so I think it could be a good way also for us in Europe to explore the different expansions of table battles. And I was curious, what do you see the future of Holland Spiel to be? What are the games that you're planning on having? Are you where do you see where do you see the company going in the next few years?
Well, mostly we've always just tried to play things by ear, and do what seems to be working and what we're interested in. But I mean, I know what's coming up in the next few months, and I know some things that we have in the works for next year. This is about as far as I get with it. I know some general direction things I'm looking for in my own work, at least, and looking at from the work of other designers. So I'll tell you some games that we have. I'll start with games we have coming out because we just released a game today. New one just came out today. It's a solitaire game called That Others May Live, which is about combat search and rescue operations in the Vietnam War. It's designed by Brad Smith, who previously designed NATO Air Commander for us. And it is a card-driven game about these search and rescue operations. And one of the things I find really fascinating about it, you're trying to find these survivors, these downed airmen before the enemy finds and captures them. And if it's possible to save, so in order to win the game, you need to save all the airmen who get shot down, including those that get shot down trying to rescue people. But if the enemy captures at least one, you don't win the game, but the game continues. You keep playing the game even though you've lost. The rules ask you to do this so you can kind of complete the narrative and think about who you can save. And I think that's a really interesting, sensitive decision that Brad made as a designer, and is something that makes me really proud to be releasing this game. We also have another Horse and Mukta game coming out. Let's see, 6th volume in that series, or 7th, depending on how you count them. Which is, they're very popular hex encounter games for us, and those will always be part of we always will do hex encounter games, right? Even as we do kind of more weird political stuff, like I'm doing this game about tobacco disinformation called Doubt Is Our Product. And that game is a 2-player asymmetric game where one player is playing like a deck building game and the other player is playing a kind of a political tableau builder game. There are different components. The cards are completely different. The mechanics are completely different for these 2 players to show this kind of asymmetrical conflict where one is focused very much on this kind of economic thing and creating doubt and disinformation. And the other player is trying to slowly build across a diverse group of people, politicians, scientists, activists, public health servants, trying to build the influence and power messaging to combat that. And so I'm very proud of this game. And then I got some things for next year. Like I'm doing a Frederick the Great game eventually, which would be kind of like a Supply Lines game and kind of not. But still, I like operational maneuver a lot more these days than kind of like tactical battle stuff. And
have you played a bit of the Levian campaign series, or?
I haven't played the Levian campaign series yet. I've heard such good things about it, and it looks really fascinating. But I have not.
Because I wouldn't say that they are the same, but I would say that by some elements, you could say that Nevsky sometimes reminded me a bit of Supply Lines of the American Revolution. They work very differently, but I think this very big focus on operational warfare, especially in a setting that we usually don't think about operational warfare in, which is medieval warfare, was really interesting. And I would say that, I was thinking that probably with your interest, Nevsky would be, and I would say Nevsky, definitely specifically Nevsky would be a good game to play. And it's on Rally the Troops. So just...
And I mean, honestly, one of my favorite films, Alexander Nevsky. So there you go.
Exactly. And that's
The battle on the ice sequence is so good.
Yes, so good. And the original soundtrack. Sometimes when I'm not really in the mood to go to work, I listen to the soundtrack and I feel like, yeah, I'm going for it. Like it's so motivational. And I thought to Volko, it's like, oh, it was so smart to use that blockbuster as the setting for your game. And it was like, nobody has watched the movie, Fred. Just you're just stupid. And I was convinced because it's so good. Like it's really it's an amazing. Everyone should have watched it. I don't understand what's happening.
Oh yeah, I think so. Actually, you caught me kind of like on an Eisenstein kick because I just finished rewatching Battleship Potemkin, and later today I'm rewatching Strike. Yeah. And like last week I watched Ivan the Terrible. So like love Eisenstein. Great stuff. Anyway.
Yeah, we won't go into that whole tangent. Not today.
Don't get me started on film. I'll.
But I have maybe one request for you before we end the stream. I just recently started to, not recently, but a few months ago, started to go a bit more into Cuberel games. Which is something that I didn't knew that much about. And very nicely, actually, Travis sent me his last copy of Guardrails also for me to explore a bit that. So that was really nice. And I'm trying to explore more games. And then I realized, wait a minute, there is this game that looks amazing and it has a political component in it. And it's doing something that I'm really interested about. It's talking about the nationalization. It's called Trans-Siberian Railroad. And then I realized who was the designer. I was like, hey, that's Amabel. Amabel did that. And I was like, so would you be open to do maybe one day a teach and play of Trans-Siberian Railroad, or do you feel like it's too far? It's too far away. It was a different design epoch for you.
Oh yeah, I mean it feels like it was designed by a different person. It even has a different name on the box. So it feels and definitely because I did 5 Cuberel games for Winsome Games, and I think that's the one that kind of got away from me a bit. Is really there's so many ideas in it, and like not all of them work. It's a really messy game, and I cannot remember the rules, so I would not necessarily. I appreciate you asking, but I would not have a good time teaching that game. I remember someone did a podcast on the game, like a 2-hour podcast on the game, where they asked their friends who had played it with them how they felt, and they said, "Do you have anything you'd say to the designer?" And they said, "Please don't do this again." So it's
But now I want to play it even more. So it's looking at me from over there.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that one of the game that really got me is Iberian Gauge, and I think it's So I tried to play the 18xx game with Joe, and I think both Joe and we don't have the brain for 18xx games. I think Joe just really likes to
I'm really good at making the trains run well. But then
but that's the thing. Joe doesn't understand that it's a game about money. He's just making the nice tracks. He's like, I want a nice train, I want a nice track, and I want everyone to be happy. And it's like, so that's the thing. But I think my problem is that I cannot count. So that's also an issue for 18xx. Like I'm really struggling with this. And the person that we're playing with is also extremely good, which makes it impossible for us to do anything about it. But I think that I understood more 18xx games after playing Iberian Gauge, actually, which was quite interesting. And I was really thankful for that game because I was like, oh, thank you. I finally understand a bit more how everything works. And I thought it would be interesting to explore your Cuberel games, just to show also a different facet of your designs. But if it's not that, I would be open to dual gauge. I'd
be open to shop dual gauge sometime.
Yeah, okay, but that would be great. Especially you have Dinosaur Gauge that was released not that long ago, right?
Yes, so Dinosaur Gauge was a co-design between me and Mary Holland, and so her first game. So she told me that anything that is right about the game is what she did, and anything that's not right, that's me. So
That makes a lot of sense. I have the same relationship with Joe. Like it's like he keeps telling me that, like he makes my game playable, and that I'm just coming up with awful ideas that he's making good. So that's fair enough. But yeah, but that's great. It was really nice to have you with us tonight, taking the time, and we spent in the end more time talking about other stuff than playing the actual game that we're streaming tonight. But it was super interesting. I hope we can get you back on the show to play other games. And of course, if there are other games that are being added to Rally the Troops in the future, we could do other teach and plays that could be extremely fun. And I think that Thor would be really happy to see that. And then maybe there have, one last thing, but I would ask you offline, is that with Liz from Beyond Solitaire, we're planning on starting a series called Alone Together. And it's the idea is from the fact that I hate playing solo games, and I never managed to play them. So there is always, when I have to test solo modules for games and stuff like this, I always need someone by my side to actually manage the solo part of the game. So that's usually Joe, who is my bot, like my but. And we thought doing a series with that idea with Liz, where she would actually manage the games for me, because she's really big, like she's the solo gamer person, and I will be the one going through the games, but with her providing me the context. And I think what would be interesting is in Holland Spiel has released along the years quite a few really interesting solo games, and I would be curious also to have your point of view on what do you think are the games that are really distinctive in that field that you've released as a publisher through the years, so we can focus on some of those. But it was great. Thank you very much. Thanks to everyone who was watching. And yes, Emanuele is noting that the Nevsky movie is actually full on YouTube. The quality is not great, I think, on the YouTube video that I found, but yeah, it might be there. But I think it's totally worth it to buy a good edition of the DVD or something. But yeah, thanks for everyone who was here tonight. I hope you had fun. Go and play anything actually on Rally the Troops, but a quick game of the Field of the Cloth of Gold is always fun. And enjoy, have a great evening, and see you soon. Actually, see you tomorrow morning, where we'll be playing At Any Cost, Mess 1870, with Russ, who will be waking up at 4:30 a.m. for you people to watch him suffer and having to teach me rules at 4:30 in the morning. I don't know how he's going to do it, but so see you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye, everyone. And